One of the questions I've been asked is, when it comes to doing weight training versus running, which is going to be better for your body? Now, it all depends on what your goal is. So one of the people that's written to me said that they've gone from running about 5 miles a day, 5 days a week, to doing weight training 5 days a week and completely cutting out the running. They've found that they have felt a little bit more bulky, which is a little bit unusual in the sense that in terms of getting bulky, it may be that it's not the weight training that's making her bulky. It may actually be the fact that her diet needs to change. Now, when you're doing a lot of running, what can often happen is you end up losing a little bit of muscle. So although you do get smaller and you burn a lot of calories and you can actually lose quite a lot of weight, sometimes that weight comes from fat, sometimes that weight comes from muscle. So you become a smaller version of yourself. There's nothing there to actually build lean muscle tissue as such. Now, when it comes to weight training, you are stimulating lean muscle mass. Now, for a lady, you should never, ever, and I absolutely stress this, you should never be worried about getting too big. Okay, what you should worry about is the kind of food that you're fueling your body with, and whether that is going to compound going from, say, 5 days of running to 5 days of weight training. And you're probably thinking, what do I mean by that? Well, it's almost impossible for a woman to get really, really massive big muscles unless they've taken in a lot of calories and weight training very heavy for a lot of years. We actually, as ladies, we only have about 5 to 10% of testosterone, like natural testosterone in our bodies compared with men. So it's physically impossible to actually put that kind of muscle on in the way that, say, a man would. And if you were to try and do that, you'd have to be really eating a lot of calories, doing a lot of massive big movements, compound movements, and for a lot of even what I would call assisted ladies who actually decide to go down a non-natural route, even it's sometimes only in those cases there that you actually see a big amount of muscle be put onto a female frame. Now, the average woman who might look at someone who's been weight training and think, oh my God, I just don't want to look like that. I don't want to get too big. I don't want to get too muscular. That ain't going to happen, okay? That is just not going to happen. But this is where the but comes in. If you are eating the same amount of calories when you're doing purely just running versus same amount of macronutrients rather. So if you're eating very, very high carbohydrate, and focusing more on endurance work and doing long distances, your body's going to feel that because it's doing a lot of cardio. Now, if you were to eat the same amount of carbohydrates and not have any cardio added into that, and you're doing purely just weight training, there is a possibility that you might actually put on weight on top of the muscle that you're building. So what often happens when women start going from cardio to weights, if they haven't got their macronutrients right, and your macronutrients mean that's your protein, your carbohydrates, and your fats. If your carbs go too high and the protein's too low, sometimes what can happen is you might put a layer of what I call a lady layer on top of your muscle, because when you start building that muscle, what you want to do is actually keep your body fat low, and that's generally what muscle is designed to, it is what muscle is designed to do. It will keep your body fat levels low because it's much more metabolic, it's burning a lot more calories at rest, and that lean tissue there will actually make you smaller. Now, pound for pound, say a pound of fat versus a pound of muscle, one of them is going to take up a whole lot more room. And I think you'd be quite surprised which one would actually take up the most amount of room. If you were to look at a pound of fat and a pound of muscle, they weigh the same. Muscle does not weigh more than fat, okay? What it does is it actually takes up less room. So in order to actually have the same amount, if you were to put them on and put them in terms of volume versus volume, muscle would actually come up a lot heavier than fat, only because it takes a lot less room in your body than fat does. So fat is essentially a lot more voluminous. I hope that makes sense. So if I was to sort of describe it with my hands, say for instance you've got about a pound of fat, say for instance it's about that, a pound of muscle might be about that big. So that's what I mean. The actual fat itself, the body fat, takes up more room in your body than muscle does. So in terms of how what that means with your food, what you need to do is actually monitor how you're eating as a runner, then how you're eating as a weight trainer. Look at the macronutrients, all right? So some people say that you might be wanting to eat about, say about 40% protein, 30% fats, and 30 to 40% carbohydrates. Now, you may need to manipulate those slightly because everybody is different, and there's 3 main body types. An ectomorph is someone who's quite naturally thin, very suited to running. They find it very, very hard to put on muscle and even put on body fat sometimes. Then you've got a mesomorph. Now, mesomorph is going to be I find it a lot easier to put on muscle. And then you've got an endomorph. They find it easier to put on body fat and also a bit of muscle. Now, some of us will be 1 or even 2 parts of a somatotype. Now, our food has to reflect that. So for someone like me, I'm a meso-endomorph. I find it easy to put on body fat. I find it easy to put on muscle, which is fantastic. But if I get my macronutrients wrong and my carbohydrates or my fats go too high, I'm going to put on body fat, even if I'm doing lots of weight training and a decent amount of cardio. So it's really hard. You can't really say a one size fits all. It's about down to the individual. What I would suggest you do, and have a look at my next video all about portion sizes, is have a look at the portion sizes that you're eating, the quality of the food that you're eating, keep a food diary, all right? And then if you find that if you're trying to actually get a little bit smaller and you're weight training, then you may need to bring the carbohydrates down slightly and increase the protein. You may need to bring your fats down slightly and increase your carbohydrates. But if you're trying to get lean and toned, do remember that tone is muscle. So you can't get a toned body without putting on that lean muscle mass. And don't be afraid of that. Muscle and getting toned can actually make us smaller, not bigger. It's not the muscle that's going to get you really big and bulky unless you're doing years and years of heavy training, eating way too many calories or eating your macronutrients wrong, or you're actually doing some PEDs, shall I say, or assisting your body, which is completely against everything I believe in, but each to their own. Is completely a personal choice. So have a look at my next video all about portion sizes. I hope you found this one helpful. To sum up, cardio versus weight training, how about you mix it up? If you find that it's hard to lose body fat, keep it at high tempo. Keep your weight training 3 to 4 days a week. Keep yourself on the go the whole time. Little rest periods if you're trying to lose that body fat, so you feel like you're really stimulating your muscle, but you're also stimulating your metabolism. Add a couple of cardio sessions in there, say between 20 and 30 minutes of HIIT training. And put it this way, if it doesn't work, then you might want to increase your cardio. If that's not working, then you look at the macronutrients. Between the two, it's about finding that recipe that works best for you.